Hello, today is a Monday, March 10th, 2025. This is my third reading for the day. It's in the morning, right? And let's learn why Azure is better than other cloud services. I'm just going to read these replies on Reddit. Why did you choose Azure over other cloud services providers? A couple of years ago, I was only hearing about AWS. We've analyzed thousands of Azure Virtual Desktop deployments and found the top 9 strategies to help reduce your cloud costs and organizational risk. Download below 9 ways to reduce AVD costs. Okay, I'll do that later. This reply was from Playpus of Wall Street, cloud engineer. I think it was the natural transition for most sysadmins. Most shops were already getting people on Microsoft Cloud via M365, Azure AD, now Entra, and Intune. With all the pieces already in play, it was only a matter of time. So it's a good MS ecosystem, right? Intune, M365, Azure AD. As an org gets ready to actually host services, IaaS, PaaS in the cloud, it's easier just to transition to what they are already kind of in versus something completely foreign. It offered direct connection with AD via Azure AD, which was often the first aspect to bring into the cloud. It offered native support for PowerShell-based scripting. Most operation teams are Windows-based after all, and yeah, they are Windows-based, and their managers sit in the table with the suits when deciding where to go. So the mutual transition, natural transition was Azure, just when cloud had matured enough in the mainstream. And this another reply to this by Cabinet OK 4838 1 year ago. Very well put, very well explained, right? Very well put. MS were slower to market than AWS, but the offering just tends to integrate better with most orgs. For web hosting distinct projects, AWS might be considered better, and I find it can be cheaper. Yeah, for web hosting distinct projects, right? Web hosting, AWS, 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 AWS might be considered better, and I find it can be cheaper. Another reply from Voodoo Logic 1 year ago. Walled garden approach works at keeping you fenced in. Walled garden approach works at keeping you fenced in, walled in, right? Walled garden approach, fenced in. Walled garden approach works at keeping you fenced in. Another big aspect is that most companies with a big IT already have some or strong relationship with Microsoft. And it was easy to work with someone you know versus Amazon or Google who don't have traditional relationships with most ITs. Resource groups. Enough said. Yeah, resource groups. Having worked in AWS for years, I really appreciate resource groups. Resource groups. Why so? Resource groups are great because it shows everything you created in one place. If you want to delete everything, just delete the resource group. In AWS, sometimes it's hard to track down and terminate all the resources you created, especially something like a NAT gateway or an elastic IP. That's why using IAC is the best. Resource group. Don't resource groups exist in AWS? Resource groups exist in AWS, but they don't work the same. In Azure, resources are explicitly bound to a resource group. You must create a resource under a resource group. In AWS, resource groups are more like a tagging. It's a loose bound. That's a bit of a simplification, but suffice it to say they aren't as useful as in Azure, right? Suffice to say, right? Suffice to say. More like a tagging. It's a loose bound. That's good expressions, right? It's a loose bound. Suffice to say, that's a bit of simplification. That's a bit of simplification. But suffice to say, right? The original comment is that I like a resource group because it's an elegant way to track resources. AWS doesn't have anything like it. There are definitely ways to track resources in AWS. Of course, there is. IAC is definitely the way in any cloud provider. Are you really calling people unprofessional over preference on tool interface? That's just silly. IT pros like what they like. And as for IAC, right? And that's just silly. So I guess this writer is British, right? That's fucking silly. IT pros like what they like. And as far as infrastructure and services go, these are commodities. The major cloud platforms all have similar offerings. Kubernetes running on Azure isn't going to be much different than running on GCP or AWS. If you use what you know, you are going to be more effective. More effective means you do better work, faster. That seems to be the height of professionalism. Well, let's see how Wide Answer 2789 replied to that. In terms of choose software, cloud provider is a software tools. In general, the enterprise way to choose is to consider 4 areas. His English is terrible. Business area, compliance requirements and processes within businesses, etc. Data area. What's your assets? Video, voice call, or JSON, etc. Application area, how your applications work, right? What interaction between apps, technology area, CI/CD, languages, etc. Let's say, as example, some companies have compliance requirements is to have local zone in Spain and technology requirements Golang and microservices. I will choose AWS and no one care about one or several professional DevOps who is more like an interface interface in Azure. Company will hire others who knows AWS and will teach them. But if your requirements Power BI and MS SQL, Azure here in the first place. Fair enough. This reply was at ATL, AWS consultant. Those are good points. Compliance requirements trump just about everything. I've seen enterprises spend big money just to stay compliant and please auditors. Specialized cloud services are a great reason to choose one cloud over another. As you point out, Power BI would be a good reason for Azure. Sometimes the choice of cloud provider by companies is actually a lot more arbitrary than you'd think. It really is a Coke Pepsi choice. That's good, another cliche, right? It's a right. It really is a Coke Pepsi choice. It really is a Coke Pepsi choice. Right. It really is a Coke and Pepsi choice. I'm saying it's right. I'm saying that it happens. So Azure is much better than AWS. Right. We are going to kill AWS in Korea. I hope so. It's PPS between. It's the permissions. Spinning up a new AWS accounts to control access is a nightmare, right? Spinning up a new AWS. Damn. Spinning up a new AWS accounts to control access is a nightmare. I would include management groups as well. But yeah, RGs are great management groups, all right, RGs. Spinning up a new AWS accounts to control access is a nightmare. Changed job a year ago and had to switch to AWS. I struggled for a good few months without Azure resource groups before finding my way around AWS deployments and resource management. I would say the abundance of governance features and controls in general. We spend heaps of time and money and achieving only a fraction of that in AWS. Samba test, scandalous, faulty, wasteful, scale, vast, outgoing cats divide. MS was the first cloud provider that offered a data center in my country. Hence, most companies here in Switzerland started with Azure since they are obliged to store user data inside Switzerland. So Azure was my first cloud provider, and recently I got in contact with GCP a bit more. I was vehemently anti-Microsoft for most of my career, started as a web dev in 1999. However, Azure wins me over for cloud because it just seems to work the way I want it to. I've always found AWS dev sysadmin hostile. In Azure, I can do almost everything via a button click or config page. In AWS, it's like click this button, then submit, then craft a custom JSON object, submit it to this endpoint, then go do that 40 more times. Ugh. It's annoying in my humble opinion. I am HO. We've got AWS org with a 250 plus account because of the cost attribution and API limits. If you are clicking buttons, you definitely cloud in the wrong way. You should write layers of abstraction in CloudFormation IAC and build into pipelines for reuse. So terrible, right? AWS, the user UI and UX, terrible. But with Azure resource group, right? Management is convenient. You can do it in just one click away. Amazing. I recommend Azure. And if you do want to use Azure service in Korea or over the world, please contact me. I am a KT engineer and sales. I would appreciate your contacting me in no time. And also, if you want to set up your company in Korea, like a business branch office in Korea or regional headquarters that encompassing Far Eastern region, always contact me. I can provide voice data, mobile security needs like CCTVs, and we can also provide the manpower to sweep the flows of your office and secure your perimeters. We provide manpower service, KT, right? We have a KT Telecom. That's number one in Korea, number one in the world, maybe. So don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.